Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about this 2000 watt Jupiter inverter and how we installed it on the truck. Let's take a look. Alright, as far as mounting, I went ahead and I mounted the inverter on the passenger side of the toolbox, and it's simple. I put some self-tapping screws, you can see it right there. Put one there, and the same on this other side, right? So I got 4 of them right on the bracket. Additionally, guys, you can see right on the top here, it does have 3 outlets. It's got a USB port. You got your on and off switch with the LED indicator. Now on the side there to your left, you got a power level indicator, which anytime you turn on, let's say like my air compressor for example, you can see where it spikes, right, the initial hit, and then it'll level off. So that's actually pretty nice. It tells you more or less how much power output you are putting towards your equipment, battery, charging station, anything like that that you have hooked up to it. Okay, so for the bottom on the positive and negative, I decided to go ahead and get some charging cables. Battery charging cables are 2 gauge, and I split them in half, so they're already red and black, and they're rated for this. And what I did was I ran it from the inverter through the toolbox, as you can see there, ran them under the truck and all the way to the battery. And I'll show you that here in just a second. Guys, that worked out just fine. Getting some charging cables, although they are pretty expensive, especially with the clamps, you know that they're well insulated and they're going to do very well. I still use some wire protector, so that kind of helps out. One thing I'd like to additionally add is the Jupiter inverter comes just the way it is. Nothing else comes with it. Alright, you have to make everything else for it. Other than the bolts that go on those 2 terminals right there for your positive and negative, everything else you have to put together. So other than not getting all the hardware with it, which is fine, I like building my own stuff anyway, the inverter's been actually working great. I haven't had any issues with it. Air compressor runs, battery charges the batteries, no issues. So far so good, guys. Okay, so on the bottom, all I did was I used that 12-step drill. I drilled the 2 holes right under the toolbox, ran it. As you can see, there is the wire loom. Make sure everything's protected. We taped it up, and I ran it right there through the bed of the truck. That goes down into the frame. Okay, now up here in the front, one thing that I wanted to cover is this circuit breaker. This is a 200 amp circuit breaker that I put between the inverter and the battery. Obviously this goes on the positive side of the battery. The great thing about this is it is waterproof, and it's going to protect the inverter and the truck should anything happen. You just never know. One of the best things about this that I like is it does have a test. You can go ahead, push that button, it disengages the breaker. Now you have no power going back to your inverter, and it's simple as bringing it back over, your circuit is back. So this circuit breaker is really great. It's going to protect you and it's going to protect your truck. Make sure nothing bad happens to your inverter or anything bad happens to your truck. It's the last thing you need. I would recommend you put something like this. Do your research depending on the inverter size that you're going to put on your truck. Mine's a 2000 watt, 200 amp is more than enough. 3000 you might want to step it up, so on and so forth. Do your research. Other than that, guys, this is one of the best things that you can put on your truck, so take a look at that and make sure you put something to protect yourself. Okay, here's a closer look at that 200 amp circuit breaker. I went ahead and I used some short self-tapping screws, found a good spot for it, mounted it on, and the rest is history. Okay, overall, not a bad install. It was actually pretty quick, maybe 2.5 hours at the most, maybe 3. The wiring being the most difficult part, right? You have to get everything together, put everything together, crimp it all together, and then you have to run it under the truck. Minor modifications, nothing too crazy. Bolting it is one thing, drilling the holes to the toolbox, through the bed, making sure you don't damage your bed, running it, zip tying it, everything to the bottom of the chassis, running it to your battery, installing your circuit breaker, and then ultimately tying it into the battery. It sounds worse than what it actually is. Go out and do it. It's not that bad. I'm sorry I wasn't able to take a video of everything, but maybe next time, or whenever I decide to do something different, I guess. Guys, overall, the install was pretty simple. Other than the wires being different, this is a 2 gauge. The other ones for the LED lights, if you remember, those are 14 gauge wires. You can do it. It's not that difficult. It's the same principle, so don't let that deter you. Okay, now that we've got everything installed, I'm gonna go ahead and plug in a couple of different pieces of equipment so you can kind of see how this power level switch works. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to run this air compressor, and I want to go ahead and let's plug in this battery pack into the inverter. So we already have the air compressor hooked in. We're going to go ahead and turn it on. There it goes. It fired up. You can go over here. You can see the load that is currently on. Not very much. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take and plug this battery pack in. Let's see what it does. Boy, not very much. It's still not getting a load. And we're charging. It's doing good. So battery pack is charging. It's also taking care of the air compressor. And we still got 1 port to go and a USB port as well. So far the load is very low. We've only got 2. Let's see what happens when I turn off the air compressor. Now there is no load, so I would say predominantly the load was coming from the air compressor, which makes sense. Our battery pack is still charging, and now we can see that we are looking really good. Even though there's no green light, hey, look, we're still charging. So don't pay too much attention to this power level. That's not necessarily telling you whether or not it's working. It's telling you more of your load. I would recommend you look at that green light. Should it turn red, now you got problems. One more time. That's the air compressor. We just turned it on, and there's the load, guys. Good deal. It's working good. Okay, as you can see, there's the inverter. Here's that little shelf that I was telling you about. It's bolted down in the back. And you don't have to worry about it. It's not going anywhere. Okay, it's right where it needs to be. So there you go. Don't have to worry about anything coming back on the inverter. Okay, so when it comes down to it, the actual installation of the inverter is really not that difficult. I'm sorry I didn't take a full video of everything that I did, but I hope that this helps explain a little bit of the process. As far as the wiring goes, it's no different than what we did with the LED lights. So if you need an example, go back and check out one of my videos and take a look at that. It shows you exactly the type of tools that I used, and other than the wire being a different size, the equipment's gonna work. You just gotta find the right stuff. Alright guys, thanks for stopping by on the Texas Operator and watching this short video on how I installed a 2000 watt power inverter on my truck. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below, and remember there is no niche on this channel, so we will see you next time.